Good evening everyone, I'm Vishal Salsekar and today we are going to cover the News Today articles for 22nd of May. So in today's discussion we are going to cover 4 important articles in detail. The first is regarding the China and Russia relation and how this particular relation might impact the India's equation with Russia. So we'll talk in detail about this. The next is the amendment in the anti-doping law. So there are recent changes in the anti-doping law which are going to punish the supply chain, or we can say the chain which is associated with the doping related issues, but then the athletes which are unknowingly getting fed on or maybe consuming those particular type of drugs that might not be taken into the criminal things, right? So there are amendment in the anti-doping law. We are going to talk about that also. Next is the cultural gift symbolizing the heritage. So Prime Minister recently went to the multiple countries visit, and in those particular countries visits, what Prime Minister have done, Prime Minister has basically gifted to different state leaders different type of gifts, and these gifts are symbolizing the importance of different parts of India, and that's why these cultural gifts became very important. And from the perspective of examination, this is very important because majority of these things are the GI tag things, and that's why UPSC can also ask regarding the things along with the state associated. Next is the sample registration system statistics, and this highlights regarding data regarding the population related things. Then we are going to discuss certain other quick updates. So let's start the discussion with the first article regarding the growing Russia and China relations. Now, from the perspective of GS paper 2, this is an important topic, right? Now, recently you might have observed that the President Trump went to China, and now within a few days, within 1 week, President Putin also visited to China for meeting Xi Jinping, the president of China, right? So this shows that China is right now sitting at the anchor of the geopolitics, and that's why the China's economic might, which basically ensures that both the sides of the world want to ensure China should be on their own sides. And that reminds us to the 1970s ka time period when there was Nixon-Kissinger diplomacy, or we can say the ping-pong diplomacy, where the US was trying to side China towards its side. Because at that point of time, the relations between USSR and China was a bit strained, and that's why US also tried to ensure that China should come in the US pivot. And that's why this time period when the US is being led by President Trump, again it is reminding us of the same time period. Now, why India should be concerned if there is bonhomie that is getting developed between two countries, whether the US or Russia are coming together, US China are coming together, or China and Russia are coming together? Because this is going to impact the balance of power across the globe. And that's why India should be concerned about this, right? So the context is basically there is a recent visit of the President Putin to China, and that's why we are discussing this now. Why? China is increasingly relying on, Russia is increasingly relying on China these days. What is basically the nexus between these two regions? And that's what we have to discuss. So you know already that Russia is right now under the US sanctions. There are a lot of, basically you can say, the financial networks of Russia which are getting impacted by the West, and that's why in order to ensure its supply chain continuously functioning, in order to ensure its oil reserves are getting supplied to the world, and Russia should get the external currency, or maybe the dollars, or maybe the other currencies. That's why Russia is ensuring its supply chain. And in that particular supply chain, China is one of the most prominent country, because Russia is trading with China comparatively lot. And after the sanctions, that particular trade volume became very high. It is way more than the $200 billion. And that's why China is very important right now for Russia. So there is a shared geopolitical rivalry also, because for Russia, for China, the common, we can say, the enemy is US only, because the US want the unipolar world which is centered around US, though China also want the similar type of world which is centered around China. But to some extent, China and Russia are right now cooperating. Even in the case of Iran, China is supplying arms and ammunition to Iran. In different other conflicts also, China is providing support to the other parties. And don't forget that right now China is one of the major economic power, and that's why what US want to avoid any major escalation or conflict with China. And in the recent national security strategy of the United States of America, US have degraded or downgraded the status of China and Russia. Means China is only an economic competitor and Russia is no more an existential threat. That shows that US is not that much serious. But now the recent visit shows that China is very, very significant from the perspective of the United States of America. Economic complementarity we have already talked about. Next is the de-dollarization and the alternative institutions, because see, China and Russia are mainly trading in their own currencies. So there is the yuan and the ruble trade. So that's not going through the dollar and not going through the Western system. It is basically being traded in the yuan and the ruble. So basically they are avoiding the use of dollar, and that is a step towards the de-dollarization. In the context of India, we have discussed it multiple times, but in the context of the China and Russia also, this is very, very significant. And that's why what they are doing, different forums, whether it is SCO, whether it is BRICS, or whether it is at any other forum, they are talking about promoting the trade in the local currencies. See, India ka bhi objective yahi hai, but then for that you should be having complementarity, and that's where it is going to be sustainable. Now you can see the geography. So there is a shared border also. You can observe that this is a shared border and this is also a shared border between China and Russia, and this is more than 4,000 kilometers. That shows that they have a shared geography. They had a shared ideology. They had a shared same system of the governance also during the 1920s, 1940s और उसके बाद, because during that particular time period 20s के बाद there was rise of the Communist Party in China, but not exactly in the form of government. 1949 was the time period when the Communist Party had taken over the control of the government, and after that there was ideological differences also. So though the ideology was same, but ideological interpretation was a different, and that's why it was a very, very significant time period. Now you can see India is sitting over here, no direct connectivity with Russia, but then direct connectivity with China. And what are going to be the implication on India after development of so much bonhomie between China and Russia? Now see, generally it is assumed that the Russia is a neutral country. When it comes to the India and China matter, Russia tries to act in a neutral manner, but try to think this scenario that if Russia is too much dependent on China economically, will it remain neutral? This is the thing we should be questioning. First thing. Second thing is regarding the defense vulnerability. We do a lot of defense trade with Russia. But then again, another set of time period pay, this has to be the question that right now the delivery delays are being observed. Apart from that, on one side, India is focusing upon the Make in India. On the other side, India is taking too much platforms from the Russia also. But then in that particular case, Russia is supplying the similar type of platform to China also. So do you think that it is going to be differentiating factor, because we too will be having then same set of platform coming from Russia, and China doing the superior research and development over that is creating more power gap? Next is the emerging Russia-China-Pakistan convergence, because see, for Russia right now it is under the Western sanctions. So that's why Russia is seeking for more and more market, and in the form of Pakistan, because India is right now focusing upon the diversification of supply chain and a lot of aspect regarding the Make in India. But in the form of Pakistan, Russia can get the destination or the market for its defense related equipment. Now that particular thing will eventually going to get the response from the side of India, but then it is going to create जो gap एक था between India and Pakistan, that particular gap might be bridging. Next is the challenge in the multilateral forums, because generally Russia supports India's stand at the multilateral forums apart from that Security Council ka membership. But then if it is too much under the pressure from China, in that particular case, don't you think so that Russia's stand might also get impacted? And lastly, pressure on the India's strategic autonomy. Right now, India is balancing through Quad also, through SCO also, participating in G7 related summits on the sidelines of that, and apart from that, different other things from the perspective of East India is attending. Now, what about now balancing on these particular things? Because suppose if both the countries, China and Russia, goes in one side, then eventually it is going to put pressure on India in order to choose the side. And so the multi-alignment strategy, or we can say the strategic autonomy wala strategy of India, might face the issue and difficulty. And that's why it is going to create the implications on India. And that's why it is important. The next article is regarding the government's proposal of the amendments to the National Anti-Doping Act of 2022. So there was an act that was legislated on the lines of the World Anti-Doping Agency. There was a NADA, which is the National Anti-Doping Agency, which was created under the National Anti-Doping Act of 2022. And now in order to plug certain loopholes which were there, and in order to punish the entire supply chain, there are certain amendments that are being done in this National Anti-Doping Act of 2022. So from the perspective of GS paper 2, the government policies and intervention, apart from that sports governance, it is very, very important. Now, talking about what is the context? So Ministry of Youth Affairs and the Sports have proposed certain amendment to address the growing trafficking, distribution of the prohibited performance enhancing substances and the methods. Now what exactly is doping? You consume certain substances which basically enhances your performance. Now after consuming those particular substances, you get an edge over the others. So it's not anymore a fair competition. And what it is going to give you, it can give you more energy, it can give you more type of boost, it will ensure the better performance from you. And this is not the natural thing. These are certain substances which are inflating your performance, and that's why it is creating the gap between the natural ones and those who are getting administered on certain type of drugs. And that's why this particular thing is banned. And that's why 2022 mein there was an act which is the National Anti-Doping Act of 2022. There is a body that is NADA, which is National Anti-Doping Agency, which is created on the lines of WADA, which is World Anti-Doping Agency. And this is the nodal agency which is collaborating and cooperating regarding different doping related things, whether it is the in tournament or outside the tournament, right? So this is the body which is collaborating regarding different type of athletics activities. Now India's commitment are also lying under the UNESCO's Convention Against the Doping in the Sports. So there is another convention which is the UNESCO's Convention Against the Doping in Sports. India is also member to that, and that's why this particular body is also applying this convention. Now what are the amendments that are being proposed? So the amendment include, first is the targeting supply chain and the personals. So there might be certain sport persons who are basically taking the help of the loophole and providing the supply of certain banned substances. So this particular amendment is going to punish the entire supply chain, shifting focus on the prosecuting the organized trafficking ecosystem, maybe coach, maybe certain peers which are supporting and which are focusing upon this type of doping. So those things are going to get punishment, making it a criminal offense for the support staff like the coaches, doctors to administer the banned substance. If you know knowingly if you are administering those particular substances, it is going to be the punishable offense. Next is the medical and the promotional rules. So it provides the safeguard also for the athletes with the valid therapeutic use exemptions, because sometimes for administering of certain disease or maybe for certain issues, some drugs might be suggested, but then for the therapeutic use and in the bona fide practitioners, मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि for performance enhancement, maybe in form of certain drug, if it is needed to be administered in order to save the life or maybe for any other reason, but that should be bona fide. That should not be for the performance enhancement. For that there is a type of, we can say the cover is also provided. ऐसा नहीं है कि सभी के लिए there is the criminalization. So there are certain checks that are also mentioned. But if you are a part of that cartel or the supply chain, then obviously you are going to get punishment. Now what is doping? We have talked about. So using of the prohibited substances or the method which are banned under the World Anti-Doping Code by the athlete to enhance the athletic performances. What are these? They are the anabolic steroids, right? So this basically enhance or maximizes your performance. Human growth hormones, then stimulants हो सकते हैं, then diuretics हो सकते हैं, ठीक है? So these are the substances which you can take and then eventually they are going to boost your performance. Now India reported the highest anti-doping violations for the 3 consecutive years. So 2024 का जो WADA report है, as per that particular report, for the last 3 consecutive years, it is India where the doping related violations are there. And once it is violations for the doping, maybe a chance कि you go outside for any of the tournament and there is a dope test and where you might found positive. In that case, you might get banned from that particular tournament. Now, this is at the international level also, this is a type of issue which should not occur because this is the failure of the state machinery then in that particular case. Now, talking about what are the key anti-doping measures which are taken right now. So, there is NIDAMS, which is NADA India Data Administration and the Management System Portal. So, this is basically digitalization of the data, जहाँ पे best practices, what are the doses to be administered, what type of substances are being used, what type of medications are being taken, क्या ban है, क्या use करना चाहिए, all these things are being provided so that athlete can access it, even the medical practitioner can access it. Then the program for education and the awareness on the anti-doping in sports launched by NADA. So this is the educational awareness. What are the issues that are going to be there because of this particular doping like situations? The educational awareness means mental awareness regarding those particular things. In competition and out of competition testing means during competition there might be testing, out of competition once you are, let's say you are not anymore right now contesting for any of the competition, but then there might be certain random checks that are going to ensure that the violation should not occur. And then lastly, the know your medicine app allows user to check the status of various medicines, whether they are banned, whether any substance used in that is banned. So all these things are very, very important. Now, why the doping is problematic? Because see, in the sports there should be the fair competition. If at any point of time it is not fair, then it is unethical. So ethical implications hote hain, because it is going to impact the integrity of the sports, because it is going to provide undue advantage to one set of people. So it violates the value of hard work, dedication and fair competition. Next is health impact. In the long time or long run, you are going to face the health consequences also. Right now you might be having very good body, but then eventually longer period of time may the elements or the organs can become dysfunctional. Impact on the athlete, damage the person's reputation, social relations. Poor example for others. Suppose you are a senior and your juniors are aspiring towards you, and then you are found guilty in the doping related issues. Now what the juniors are going to think, right? Then the governance issue, because what it is going to do, it is going to show the governance failure, that the system is not able to track these particular issues. So it is the difficulty in maintaining the integrity of the competition. Tomorrow, how other set of athletes who are coming in the quest of, let's say, free and fair competition, how they are going to believe over you, right? That's another issue. Lastly, the societal impact, because broadly on the societal perspective also, what we are doing, we are legalizing or legitimizing the cheating. So what we are doing through doping, that is also one set of cheating. So cheating को आप legitimize कर रहे हो, so that is also one such a set of issue. The next is the Prime Minister's cultural gift highlighting India's rich heritage. Now see, from the perspective of culture, very, very important. But see, here there are list of the items provided. Now see, definitely UPSC might not necessarily be asking about the items only, but what UPSC might focus upon, specific item they can take, and then they will be asking you to relate with the states, with what type of product it is, right? So there is some aspect of self-study also after reading this particular list, right? So I'm going to list down certain things and why this particular type of diplomacy is important from the international relations perspective. See, you are going in any specific country, what you are doing right now, you are trying to popularize the products that are the unique aspect of your country. And through that, those particular products are going to get the global imagery, global publicity, and those particular things then tomorrow might be coming in the demand. And that's how what you are doing. And who is better than the Prime Minister providing this to the other national leaders in order to promote the sanctity of those particular products. And that's why it is very, very important from the examination perspective also, because UPSC keeps on asking about certain type of art, artifact, and if there is any of the current relevance on these particular product, then UPSC can clearly ask about them, right? Now, from the perspective of GS paper 1 art form, it is important. Now, what are those particular things? What are the gift? What are the details of that is provided over here? I'll just read it, because see, eventually we have to go in the details of each and everything, why they are relevant and from which particular location they are coming. That is a more important aspect that you should be reading. And from this particular year's examination might not be that relevant, but for the upcoming years, these particular artifacts can be asked. So first is the Italian leaders co. There is Muga and the Eri silk. So there are different variety of the silk. So what is your responsibility? What you should do? You should have an idea regarding where these particular type of silk varieties are being produce. So Muga and the silk variety of the Muga and the Eri variety of the silk that is being given. Apart from that, there is Shiroi lily stone that is from the Manipur, which is a rare bell-shaped flower. So these are the things that are being provided to the Italian leader. Apart from that, there is a marble inlay box which is having the Pachikari art. Now there is a technique known as Pitera Dura, and that particular technique ke basis pe these particular artifacts are also being provided. That shows that from different part of the country you are taking certain artifacts and now you are providing it to different set of leaders, and those particular leaders are then going to popularize this. Obviously those things are going to be important in your set of country. Apart from that, for the UAE leader, there is the Rogan painting, which is the Kutch art. So they can ask you regarding this, from which region. Then fruits, GI tagged. Kesar mangoes, these are also important, right? Different varieties of mangoes like Ratnagiri, like the Kesar, right? Apart from that, there is a filigree box from the Karimnagar silverware, right? Apart from that, there is Maheshwari silk from MP. Then there is Chakau rice from the Manipur, and then Koftgiri dagger from the Udaipur's silver and the gold inlay. So these are certain important artifacts. Apart from that, the Sweden's leader, there is the Ladakhi stole that was being provided, which is obviously from the Himalayan region. Then there is the other gift like artisanal Loktak lake, Loktak tea. Apart from that, GI protected Shantiniketan leather bags. Then there is a gold art of MP. Then Prime Minister himself provided his book to the Swedish leader, right? The PM's book is the Convenient Action. Now UPSC last year they had asked a question regarding book. They can ask you simply, the convenient action was recently in news, was the book written by whom? So it is the Prime Minister's own written book. Then there is the Director General of FAO. So FAO ke context mein, then there are certain food related products that were being provided. So there is Joha rice, indigenous Assam Brahmaputra Valley se. Then apart from that, GI rice varieties, Govind Bhog rice hai from the West Bengal. Then Karnataka, then there is Kala Namak rice from UP, Basmati from different states. Now, how UPSC can ask? They can give the variety of rice and they will be asking you the states. And otherwise they can also ask regarding which particular states mein basmati hota hai. So there are 7 states like the Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, Uttarakhand, Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir. So they will give you the variety of rice and the states, and then you have to mark it. Apart from that, Netherlands leaders GI tagged Jaipur blue pottery. Where blue pottery is there? It is in Jaipur, highlighting the Indo-Dutch artistic excellence, because in the Dutch region or the Netherlands also there is the blue pottery. Apart from that, GI tagged Madhubani painting. Where Madhubani paintings are there? What are the specific features of Madhubani painting? That can be asked. Denmark PM ke liye Bidri silk work, exquisite, the silver inlay craft from the Deccan region. Where is the Bidar? Bidar is in the Deccan region. Lastly, Norway leaders, the silver filigree sailboat from the Odisha's Tarkashi craft, and that is highlighting the Indian and the Vikings ka history, the shared history between them. And lastly, the palm leaf Pattachitra from Odisha. Where is the Pattachitra practiced? It is in Odisha. So UPSC can ask about each and every. Here, each and every line is important. Having an idea about the artifact and the state associated, that is very, very important thing that UPSC can ask. Next, or the last important news that we have to discuss in detail, is regarding the sample registration survey statistical report of 2024. So since this is a report, it is going to provide you certain set of data, and that's why this data can be utilized in your answer in order to substantiate your set of argument. Now, GS paper 1 from the population and associated issue, because this sample survey is going to give you data regarding the demographics also. Apart from that, GS paper 2 health sector, human resource development, this is important. Now, what exactly is the context? So there is a report that is released by the Office of the Registrar General of India. So this particular report, which is the sample registration system statistical report, which is released by which authority? Office of the Registrar General of India, ORGI, one of the largest demographic survey globally, providing the annual estimates of the India's vital statistics. Now, this is one of the most authentic data that you can quote in your answer regarding demographics. Right. Now, how? Firstly, this particular report, again, there are factual things, bear with me. First thing, fertility trend. So this trend provides that what exactly are different rates pertaining to fertility. So it talks about that right now the fertility rate is below the replacement rate. So 2.1 is considered as the replacement rate. Right now it is 1.9, which is basically sub-replacement fertility rate. So 2.1 se kam hai, that means sub-replacement, means the people which are exiting the demography, jo aa rahe hain usme, they are comparatively lesser. That means there will be a deficit or the lack of population that will be observed. And this is below for the 5th consecutive year. Mortality trends kya bolte hain? The crude death rate means on an annual basis how many deaths are being reported per 1,000 population, that is being shown. It is 6.4 in 2024. Overall death rate remains higher than the pre-pandemic level. So it is shown that pandemic ke baad jo death rate report hue, they are comparatively high. They are higher than the pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic mein it used to be comparatively low. So that means crude death rate has increased. Infant mortality, infant means below 1 year ka child. In that particular year, let's say the child is taking birth today, and within a span of 1 year, before completing 1 year, that child dies. So out of that 1,000 population, how many childs are getting died? So it has declined to 24. That means the infant mortality is 24. It drop of 6 point over last 5 years. 5 years mein we have progress, but only 6. So 24 हुआ है अभी. Kerala का कितना है? It is 8. Under 5 mortality rate. So it shows that within the age of 5 year, how many childs are dying. So that is again based upon the 1,000 population. So it is at 28. So that shows, that gives an idea regarding what are the different type of data regarding this. Now, there are certain other indicators, जैसे causes of death. So it shows that what are the major causes of death. So it is the motor vehicle accident deaths that rose to 3.2%, and the deaths by suicide increased to 2.8%. If there is a question regarding the motor vehicle accident, if there is a question regarding suicide, UPSC had previously asked the question regarding this. So you can quote this data by the sample registration survey by the Office of Registrar General of India. This is one of the most authentic data based upon India's demography, and that you can show. Then demographic and the social indicators. So sex ratio is birth. So there is a marginal improvement. So sex ratio at birth is also improving, and that is 918 per 1000. So 1000 males and 918 female. Though it is comparatively lesser, but there is a marginal improvement. So that can be shown, right? So these are certain important data that you can note down, and with subject, with topic, you can note down this data and then you can put this in the examination, right? So these were the important news articles. Now let's talk about the quick updates. First in this is regarding the Vayu Astra 1. So Vayu Astra 1, so this is basically a type of, we can say, the loitering munition या फिर एक तरीके का unmanned aerial vehicle type का है, which was developed and tested by Indian Army. So the indigenous Vayu Astra 1 successfully completed the high altitude trial. Now what it is the loitering munition, means it is not maneuvering based upon certain type of, like, let's say, being guided by someone who is sitting inside that. It is a UAV. It basically revolves around certain things where it want to strike, and then eventually it finds the time ki accordingly us pe strike karna, and then it hits that particular target. So it is a type of, let's say, a type of suicide drone, you can assume. So it is also referred as the kamikaze or the suicide drone, capable of hovering, surveillance and precision strike. It hovers around that particular place for a time, then eventually it sets the target and then it hits that particular target. Range kitna hai? 100 kilometer, and weight kitna hai? 10 kilogram ka warhead. Means the warhead it can carry is of 10 kilogram. Feature kya hai? Precision and the night capabilities, high altitude endurance and the intelligent combat feature. These are certain prominent features of Vayu Astra 1. Next is the sperm whale. So it is the whale that is recently found that there are clicking sounds which are the codas used by the sperm whale to communicate, and these are certain type of complex sound that are being produced by these whales, and that is like the vowels. So whales were already there, but this type of sound pattern that was being observed recently. Now what are these particular whales? They are found in the deep oceans from the equator to the Antarctic, Arctic, means everywhere this type of whales are being found. One of the largest toothed whale with the biggest brain. Apart from that, massive head contain the spermates and waxy fluid, aiding buoyancy during the deep dives. So it is helping in the movement of the whales, and it produces the ambergris, right? So ambergris is basically a type of substance which is generally also considered as the type of whale vomit, and that particular thing is being utilized in the fragrance industry in order to create the fragrance substance used in the perfumes. Only the living cetaceans or the order of mammal that include the whales, dolphins and the porpoises, which is having the single left sided blowhole, right? So I think कि बहुत ज़्यादा technical भी ज़रूरी नहीं, but just having an idea regarding that. And IUCN status very important. It is vulnerable. So this is regarding the sperm whale. Next is regarding the Korean War. So India provided a very significant role in the Korean Peninsular War, 1950 to 1953. India provided the voluntary ambulance corps, and that's why there has been recently a memorial that was inaugurated in the Imjinak Park in the Seoul, in order to celebrate the 75th year anniversary of the Korean Peninsular War. So it honors the sacrifices in the service of the 60 para field ambulance and the custodian force of India. What exactly was happening after the World War II? There was the north part of the Korea that was being under the influence of the communist forces, USSR and China, and the south part which was being basically influenced by the democratic forces, and that divided the Korea on the basis of the 38 parallel. 38 parallel ke upar it is North Korea, below that it is the South Korea, and presently it is in the form of two separate countries, North and the South Korea. North Korea invaded, then 1950 में actually क्या हुआ? North Korea invaded South Korea, then after that South Korea retaliated, then it invaded North Korea, and then the 1953 में once there was armistice, this particular armistice was agreed upon at the 38th parallel, and that's why that is the dividing line between them. So 1953 में armistice हुआ which divided the peninsula at 38th parallel. Next is the myopia. So recently it has been highlighted that it is going to become the major global pandemic, and roughly by 2050, roughly half of the population of the world is going to face the situation of myopia. Now myopia is basically the nearsightedness. Nearsightedness means आपको पास की चीजें तो अच्छी दिख रही हैं, you are able to see it clearly, but then there is a issue in order to see the or locate those particular things which are at a distance. So it is a common refractive eye disorder. Nearby object appear clear, but the distant object appear blurred. So generally the specs that are being worn by the youth, that is because of this only, because of the myopia, because for the distant object you are not able to see, right? And for that generally you are utilizing the concave type of lenses. Because why it is happening? Because if there is a eyeball socket, right? You can see this. Now generally what happens in the myopic eyes, the image that is being projected before that particular जो आपका फोकल पॉइंट है वो यहां पर पहले पड़ता है, एंड फॉर दैट यू हैव टू यूटिलाइज द कॉन्केव टाइप ऑफ लेंस, एंड दैट पर्टिकुलर लेंस इंक्रीजेस द स्कोप, एंड दैट्स व्हाई द इमेज यू विल गेट ओवर दिस, and that's how you will correct this, right? This type of disease. Another thing is a hyperopia, or which is the farsightedness, means distant object you are able to see clearly, and the near object you will not be able to see. So the reading glasses generally you are having, that is for the hyperopia. Next is the Kanha National Park. So basically there are recently some deaths that have been observed because of the canine distemper virus, CDV, and that's why this particular Kanha National Park was in news. So officials are closely monitoring over 100 Kanha National Park tigers following the 6 tragic deaths. Now what is CDV? It is a lethal airborne paramaxiovirus commonly affecting the dogs and the other animals with severely damages the respiratory and the nervous system. So basically it is the airborne, and this is a type of virus. Okay, CDV is a virus. V stands for virus. It impacts respiratory and the nervous system. Both the things are getting impacted. Now Kanha National Park, it is in the Mandla and the Balaghat district of MP. It is situated in MP, and it is also said that Rudyard Kipling ki jo Jungle book thi, that particular book was also inspired from Kanha. There is also references to Page and Kanha. So these are the places which influenced his work. So Maikal Hills of Satpura, where it is situated, National Park bana 1955 mein, and then under Project Tiger it became a tiger reserve. 2 indigenous tribes are Gond and the Baigas tribe. And then fauna mein there is Bengal tiger, Barasinga, and then flora mein it is the tropical moist to dry deciduous type of for flora that is available. Next is the Ayush Grid initiative. So basically Ayush Anudan portal under the Ayush Grid initiative launched to aim to digitize the submission, processing and approval and monitoring of the grant proposal. So it is basically an initiative of digitization. So it is a digital initiative launched by Ministry of Ayush in 2018 to build an integrated, transparent and citizen-centric digital ecosystem. So it is basically a digital ecosystem, integrated, citizen-centric and the transparent system. Multiple digital platform under the Ayush Hospital Management Information System and e-Aushadhi. So these are initiative taken under this, and this is broadly the part of the Ayushman Bharat digital mission. Okay. And spans including the education, research, medicine, then administration, drug regulation, all these things are part of this. The next article is regarding the United Nations General Assembly ka resolution. So United Nations General Assembly backed an ICJ advisory opinion declaring that the state holds the legal obligation under the international law to tackle the climate change. So there is recently a law that was being brought and recently being voted in the UNGA, and that particular law is regarding making sure that those who are perpetrator of climate change, those who are not regulating it properly, they should be held responsible and there should be penalties, or they should be held legally responsible basically. So it was tabled by Vanuatu, which is a Pacific island, right, which is facing the existential crisis because for those particular island countries, they will not be having any land remaining if there will be rise of the sea level. Total vote kitne 141, not important, 8 opposed but 28 abstained. India was one such country which abstained. Obligation kya hai? All the member state must avoid the environmental damage, curb the border emissions and fulfill the Paris Agreement pledges. India talks about that, but basically the fairness in these particular agreements are going to be very, very important. Liability kya hai? Though not legally binding, inaction could expose the government to international litigation, major liability claims and the full reparation. Suppose if the countries which are losing their land because of the climate change, then they can ask for the reparations, right? So from this UNGA resolution, it is going to provide the obligation on those particular country. The last article that we have to discuss is regarding the state and the trends of the carbon pricing 2026. So India has emerged as a major global carbon market with the launch of the carbon credit trading schemes according to a new World Bank report. So there is a World Bank report which is regarding the state and the trends of the carbon pricing, and according to that it is mentioned that India emerged as a major carbon market. Now what is carbon market basically? So there is a carbon pricing policy, and in this particular policy what exactly is happening, that there are carbon credits being created. So if you are reducing the carbon emission, you are getting carbon credit that can be later on traded also. So Carbon pricing policy covers 29% of the global GHG right now and may reach to 1/3. So it is about to increase further. Revenue generation kya hota hai? Because if you are limiting the carbon emission, you will be getting the carbon credit that can be traded for money also, right? So there will be revenue also generated. So carbon tax and emission trading system generated over $107 billion in 2025. That is very, very important. What is carbon credit and trading system? Launched in 2026 as a GHG emission intensity based trading system for hard to abate sector like coal, maybe steel, aluminum, these particular sector. Industries exiting target earn the tradable carbon credit certificate. मतलब आपने target था आपके लिए, if you have cut down the emission to a level, so you, for the gap you will get the carbon trading certificates and that you can trade, you can earn money also. So global standing kya hai India ka? India's ETS is among the world's largest after China, EU and South Korea. So that is very, very significant, right? So with this we have completed the news today discussion of 22nd of May. I hope whatever we have discussed is clear to you. Now refer to the questions and we'll meet again in another set of discussion. Okay? Thank you everyone. Have a great day.